Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Astrology Today and Tarot. My name is Mel Rose. This is the Tarot portion and the second half of my daily astrology vlog, which you can check out on my other channel, Astrology Today with Mel Rose. Over there, you'll find a description of the day's astrology as I have spelled it out here. Here, I'll discuss the tarot card that sits on the side of the page, and then I'm going to play another card that, in the context of the day's astrology, may just give us something more to think about. So, let's get into it. The card that currently sits on the side of the page is the Seven of Swords, and it is here for a reason. It's here because it corresponds in astrology with the final 10 days, or the third decan of the sun's transit here in the land of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is an air sign. Swords in tarot equate to air element symbolism, and air element symbolism is about the intellect and the rationale, what you think and what you plan and what you say. How you think, how you plan, and how you say it as well. So we come to the Seven of Swords, and we see somebody engaged in some sort of shady behavior right here, okay? So there's deception at play here. There's some trickery, and perhaps, you know, a hope that somebody will turn a blind eye to what we're doing. And, you know, sometimes, I mean, clearly, like, everybody engages in some sort of deception at some point in their life. And sometimes we feel the need to lie or to misrepresent ourselves or our ideas, you know, so that we can get what we want, so that we can move forward, so we can get that job that we'd like to have, or we can get that, you know, we can get the recognition that we would like to receive. And I said this yesterday, but I'll say it again today. Big George Santos vibes here, okay? Anybody you know that makes themselves out to be something that they are really not, and that they benefit from it, right? They sort of go far because they lied. That's the vibe here, okay? So, you know, it's really normal. It's really natural human behavior to think about, you know, putting something on your resume that doesn't belong there, or to think about maybe stealing somebody else's good idea and you know, seeing what you can do with it on your own. This card often comes up for me, a warning to those of you who create intellectual property to protect your intellectual property, right? Not to let somebody make off with it and make something else with it that doesn't represent you or that you're not going to benefit from, okay? So that's the Seven of Swords, a little bit of deception and trickery. And, you know, the problem with engaging in that kind of deception and trickery is, you know, you always get found out. The liar always gets caught, okay? So, you know, while you're not being caught, while you think you're getting away with it, you're going to be constantly looking over your shoulder thinking, did anybody see that? Does anybody really know what's going on here, right? That can create a really stressful situation. It's not good for your mental health. It's really not good for your physical health either to be in this state of deception with other people. So, you know, seek your best to do it honestly. You know, I had somebody else say the other day that they had told a lie basically to enforce a boundary that they had for themselves, but that they didn't want to communicate to somebody else. So they just like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm doing this other thing, right? When in fact that wasn't what they were doing. They just didn't want to do the other. They just didn't want to do what they were being asked or something like that. So, you know, hopefully eventually we get to live in a world where we feel comfortable enough with ourselves to be honest and say, oh no, I don't do that sort of thing. Right? Like when somebody invites me to church, I say, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't do that sort of thing. You know, let's meet somewhere else outside of church, right? So Seven of Swords, that's what that's all about. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn this card over. We got the Two of Air, which is the Two of Swords. More swords, friends, okay? And like I said yesterday, with swords comes conflict. It comes, you know, our ability to assess a situation. It comes our ability to strategize about a situation. And with strategy, that's how we engage in conflict, right? So Two of Swords or Two of Air is often sort of represented as just the internal conflict of not knowing which way to go, like having a decision to make but being indecisive about it, not not seeing one option as necessarily better than the other, or not knowing how to choose, an option. Maybe you only have like two terrible choices available to you, right? It reminds me of what is her name? Jennifer Lawrence in that movie American Hustle, when she confronts the other lead female character, and she says, sometimes all you have in life is rotten choices. So sometimes we come to a point where we have to make a choice between two really rotten choices. Neither of them are something that we'd prefer. We'd prefer not to have to make a choice, but there it is. One way or the other, you're going to choose something, because if you don't make a choice, you've chosen something as well, right? When we don't stand in our choice, when we don't make choices for ourselves, then they sort of get made for us, and then we're sort of carried along on the whims of other people, or just on the sort of tides of what's going on in the world around us. So being indecisive, again, a natural place to come to. Not knowing what kind, how to make the choice, a natural place to be. Having your eyes closed to when you have your eyes closed, or in a regular Two of Swords, it would be a person with two swords crossed over their shoulders, and they're sort of blinded, right? They have a blindfold on. So, having your eyes closed sort of makes you blind to what your options are, so of course everything is going to look the same from behind closed eyes. So, how do we disabuse ourselves, A, of the notion that one choice is as good as another, and B, if one choice is as good as another, does look as good as another, and it's hard to find out, unfortunately we can't see into the future and say, oh, this is going to work out much better for me than that is, right? Then sometimes it feels like the toss of a coin would be just as good as anything. Right? So this just really points to a moment where we can't decide, and we don't feel good about being made to decide, and we don't see that we have any options, but to choose between these two things that we don't necessarily, neither of which we necessarily choose to care. Where do we see this on the page today? Just taking a look here. Only so many planets and only so many signs, right? So as far as air goes, I would go directly to Mercury, because Mercury is your thoughts, plans, and communications. It's the way you communicate with other people, and it's the way you share what you're thinking, and it's also the way you make your plans. So Mercury has just moved into Aquarius the last few days. It's about 5 degrees in now. And it is broadening off from that conjunction it had with Pluto, so we don't have nearly as much personal insight, right? It's kind of harder now to see to the core of things than it was a few days ago when Mercury was really conjunct to Pluto in Capricorn. And Mercury conjunct to Pluto in Capricorn does give us that advantage of just being able to see the core truth of things. Really being able to see, just right to the center of maybe a personal problem that we're having, or any situation we might be in our outer life as well. We can just sort of see the truth of things, and when we see the truth of things, it sometimes is easy to make a simple choice, right? So our choices are not as simple at this point, because we can be sort of blinded to the core truth of something, or we are so distracted by the choices that we're being asked to choose from that we don't see what's at the center of that choice, which is ourselves. So, I want to say you always have a choice. You always have the option even not to choose, between two terrible choices. Although, again, sometimes when you don't choose, then something gets chosen for you, right? So, it's not necessarily about choosing one of those terrible choices, but it is about opening your eyes and seeing that you have options and saying, neither of these will work for me. How about a combination of the two? Or neither of these will work for me, but I'll tell you what I will do, or I'll tell you what I can do, okay? And then also, news and air signs, we've got Mars and Gemini. That's a very, Gemini is 2, it's the twins, right? This is very assertive vibe in the twins. So we are assertively collaborating with other people. We are assertively starting projects, sometimes more than we can see through or finish. And this really speaks to the need to perhaps not try to make the choice all on your own, even if it is a choice where you are the one at the core of what happens, right? But to talk to a trusted friend, advisor, somebody who has been there before, perhaps, and collaborate so that you can make a plan. Like you collaborate so that you can help, so that perhaps somebody else's perspective on the situation can help inform you about the choices that you're being asked to make. But also, Mars in Gemini tends to start more things than it finishes. So, this could be a matter of being torn between two projects, torn between two collaborations, torn between two ideas, two great ideas, two forward motions, sort of two roads diverged in a yellow wood, right? So in that case, of course, we have to make a start on something. And of course, again, it might be helpful to have a friend. Gemini is always about having a friend, having somebody to communicate with, to collaborate with, to share your experiences with. So I think Mars and Gemini would really say, call a friend, ask somebody to help you with this choice making that you have have before you right now. And then the other thing in air signs right now is that the sun is going to be completely conjunct to Saturn in a couple of days. They're conjunct now. They're very close to one another. Very intense vibe of serious, sober approaches to the things that we are ambitious to finish in our lives, the things that we are ambitious to do in our lives. Okay, so Saturn is a very grounding, very somber, sober influence, and the sun is very much just about our outer life, the work we're trying to do in the world, what we're trying to get done out there. And the sun and Saturn together really just make us very serious about the work we're doing. Perhaps there's something that we're bringing to completion, or perhaps there's just something that we're working on that needs a level of grounding, and we need to go back over and make sure everything is, aligned the way it should be. Make sure the money has been spent the way it should have been spent, and the plans have unfolded the way they should have been unfolded, and make sure that our foundation for what it is that we're working on is firm for us before we go and set out to finish our projects. And then the other thing in news, in air sign news, is the unsung hero Libra coupled with Leo today, because we have this cradle shape here where the moon is opposite Mars, giving us some sort of aggressive, impatient tendencies, but they're both sextile here with Mercury and Jupiter. Mercury sextile the moon, Jupiter to Mars. They create this sort of helpful support structure that says, if you really communicate about the bigger, better things you're trying to do, the way you're trying to expand in your life, if you really, share that with a collaborator at this time, then it's possible you don't have to be tempted right now to sort of just aggressively take what you want. It's possible that by communicating and sharing your big idea, that can be given to you, or that it can come to you in a less, in a less assertive, aggressive way. But then the unsung heroes come in with the cradle, because you see we've got all this support over here that says just have a conversation about what you want to do with your life, and things will sort of come your way. And it's a very good manifestation vibe for that kind of stuff right now anyway, because Venus conjunct to Neptune right here is saying, yes, imagine what it is that you love, what you would like, love, and can't get enough of, what you would like to draw in toward yourself. Imagine your ideal circumstances. Visualize it, draw it, write about it, create a rhyme, do a little happy manifestation dance about it. Share with somebody that is special to you about how and why they are special to you. That's very much supported in this way, in that aspect as well. But what we don't see is a whole bunch of influence on this side of the page, and that's where Libra opposite to Jupiter in Aries and Leo opposite to Mercury in Aquarius come in, okay? Because reciprocity, getting what we want, right, involves giving it involves giving some of what the other person needs. You know, if you're trying to strike a balance in a business place, if you're trying to strike a balance in a personal relationship, where, you know, the moon is here in relationship to Mars, in opposition to Mars, that's very much about our personal relationships with ourselves and our home lives and the people we keep close. So reciprocity, the reciprocity that we seek, you know, the stuff that we want to get for ourselves, you know, sometimes is balanced out by being able to give something of ourselves, right? You don't just get without giving. You've got to sometimes lighten your load. You've got to sometimes listen to what the person on the other end of that equation is looking for, and be willing to give of yourself, you know, something that you've been holding back, something that you've been resisting giving, something that you've been, you know, just thinking, well, I need to hold on to this for myself, when really it was there all along for you to give it in order that you might have this other thing that's important to you. Okay, so just keep in mind that, you know, over here we have the power to ask for what it is that we need and desire, but over here we're being asked to remember, and this is the part where we have work to do, right? That that balance involves sharing, it involves giving of ourselves generously, so that we can also receive the things that represent expansion and growth for us. Okay, so that's a long explanation of what's going on the page today. Let's put these two together and see what we think. We have the Seven of Swords and the Two of Swords, essentially. And this really speaks to maybe being dishonest with ourselves, I think. You know, over here, we think that we have only these two options, and we have our eyes sort of closed to what they are, what the circumstances are around us. So, you know, so we're not really eyes open to our options. We're just sort of torn between these two choices that we're being asked to make, and not giving it much thought besides, I'm unhappy that I have this choice to make, or one doesn't seem any better than the other, and perhaps they don't seem like very good choices anyway. And then, you know, in here, notice that both of these people, both of these characters here have their eyes closed, right? There's even, you know, there's an element to that Seven of Swords. It's about turning a blind eye, you know, because when you see somebody doing something dishonest, making off with somebody else's good ideas, then you are kind of asked by that person, probably not in explicit terms, to turn a blind eye to what they're doing. But once you're implicated in another person's lie, once you know about it and you don't say anything, then you are part of the lie, right? And that doesn't serve you in the long run. Again, you know, just the risk of getting found out, the punishment, the clapback, the sort of compensation for lying can be a little much for us to bear. It's more than we probably want to deal with. So let's not be implicated in the lies of others. Let's not promise to turn a blind eye, right? But let's also not promise to turn a blind eye to our own options. You know, especially if you're in a situation here where you think you have really no choice but to embellish the resume like a George Santos, or to constantly, you know, make yourself out to be something you're not, or to make yourself out to have had experiences that you have not had, so that people will give you the recognition and appreciation that you hope for, that you seek and desire in life. You know, if you feel that you have no choice but to lie about yourself to get there, listen, open your eyes. Just open your eyes and see how poorly that's going to work. Look at George Santos. Yes, he got where he wants to be. He's in the House of Representatives. He thinks he's going far in his political career at this point, but he's been called out on so many lies. And, you know, politicians lie, but very few of them lied just as blatantly as that person did. And he is having a miserable time of it. He's had to step back from his committee assignments. He does not have the respect of his Republican peers in Congress, right? And it's because, I mean, I don't know if he felt like he had no choice, or if he just got into a really easy habit of lying about himself to get people to respect him, you know, from telling lies about what his qualifications are to telling lies about tragedies that he's been through, so that he can sort of qualify to answer any question, right? This is not a good look. However good he thinks he looks, you know, wearing his little flag pin and being a member of Congress, it is not a good look, and it is not going well for him because he's been called out on all these lies. So open your eyes, tell the truth to yourself first and foremost. And when you start to tell the truth, you're going to see that you do have options. You have other options than just to misrepresent yourself. You have options to be really honest about yourself to other people, and, you know, let those chips fall where they may. Somebody out there is always going to more appreciate the truth coming from you than some level of dishonesty. And I think that's all I have to say about it today, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate your presence here. My name is Mel Rose, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow for more Astrology Today and Tarot.